Thanks, Vicki. Thanks everyone for being here and joining us. I know you're going to get a lot out of today's session. We did some practice rounds and it was really enlightening for me. I know these women well, but really hearing about their use cases and their stories, I learned more than I thought I could. So I hope you have that same takeaway today. And I also want to thank our virtual audience for participating. Please, by all means, as Vicki said, submit your questions through the Q&A, participate in discussion, and with our live audience as well. So I would love to start with Kaylee to introduce herself, and then we will move down the line. Kaylee.
I am Kaylee Evans. I work at the Infectious Disease Society of America, and our annual meeting is ID Week. It's a joint meeting of 5 different infectious disease societies. We have around 13,000 attendees, 700 speakers, and 3,000 abstracts.
Awesome. Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Goodman. I'm the Annual Meeting Programs Director for the American Urological Association. Our annual meeting is held each year as the largest grouping of urologists around the world. We have about 15 to 16,000 in attendance each year, and we're about half international. As far as our speakers, we have about 4,000 speakers, including our abstract presenters. For our, we have abstract presentations, 2,500 abstract presentations in poster podium sessions, as well as our large general session, our plenary, and we have 21 subspecialty societies that meet with us as well. So a large data set of speakers and attendees.
And Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren Davis from the American College of Rheumatology. I'm Director of Abstract Submissions and Faculty Management. A lot of my work focuses on our annual meeting, ACR Convergence. Convergence has about 14,000 attendees. We usually have between 3,000 to 3,500 abstracts. And I'm responsible particularly for the abstract program and also for our handling of all of the meeting faculty. And so that includes our abstract presenters as well as generally around 500 or so additional invited faculty.
And Meredith?
Hi, I'm Meredith Phillips. I'm the Vice President for Research and Learning at the American College of Gastroenterology. It's a mouthful, but I oversee our research institute, our education, and our journals. We have 16,000 members and about 6,000 abstracts for our annual meeting. We also run 8 regional courses. We use the Cadmium for our abstract submission and review, of course, and all of our faculty management, but also for our grant submissions and reviews, and so we use it across many of my departments.
And Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean O'Connor. I work for Consumer Technology Association. We produce the largest technology trade show in the world called CES. It takes place in Vegas every January. We have about 138,000 attendees. That was last year. And I also manage the Innovation Award Program, which is a part of CES. And with that, we get about 3,000 abstracts annually, hoping to grow every year.
Awesome. Well, we are very fortunate to have all of these panelists with us and learn from them as we will learn from you guys as well as we network together. So first, I just want to learn about how each of them have integrated event technology into their event process, and in Sean's case, awards management process. So Sean, I'd love to start with you. What does that look like for you, and how have you used Cadmium in your process?
So we use Cadmium in such a big way for our award program. We actually use it in 2 different ways in the company, but specifically for me, it's called the Innovation Award Program. It's an annual competition where basically any company with a consumer technology product can enter. Our whole application for judges and for applicants is through Cadmium. So we collect them all, we review them all, we use it in such a big way. We also have another portion of CTA that uses Cadmium for their grant proposals. It's from the CTA Foundation. So they collect grant proposals basically for technology, usually for elderly adults or people with disabilities, and they kind of go through, review, collect the same way that we do in the Innovation Award Program.
And something unique about the way Sean uses the technology is they actually charge for their submissions. Can you share how much you charge, how many submissions, kind of do the math, and how has that impacted CTA?
Yes. So when we first started this program, it was not we were not thinking of it as a revenue generating program at all. It was a way to see the latest and greatest technology gadgets, kind of get people from startups to huge corporations involved. But with that being said, we do charge an entry fee. They range. We have an early bird discount, which is if you are a CTA member and exhibitor, it's $3.99 per application. If you are neither, it is $7.99 per application, and then after our discount ends, it goes up to $5.99 and $9.99. So it's growing every year, so it's quickly becoming a revenue-generating program, which is great for the company.
I think that's really interesting that her executives notice that, wow, there's an opportunity here that we can generate some revenue from this process. She's not the only one. Meredith, will you talk about your long history with cadmium, but also kind of touch on that as well?
So I started back in the olden days with my first society in cadmium. We were back in the olden days of cadmium CD, where actually CDs were mailed out to us, and we would distribute a CD to each person. And then, of course, we moved into USBs, and now, of course, it's all digital. So we've been with cadmium since the beginning and grown, and cadmium has grown with us. Our abstract process, I've been with my current organization for 9 years, and we have yet to not break a record in submissions. This year, we went up 20%. We had 5,000 abstracts last year, and we had 6,000 abstracts this year. And we do charge. We went from $60 to $70 this past year. So again, you can do the math there. So it's a nice revenue generating. We use it obviously we do a grant submission process. We don't charge for that, and that's where we award about $2.7 million in grants per year. So that entire process is handled there. We use it for all of our regional and national meetings. From soup to nuts. So it is our collection system. It is our evaluations. You know, we evaluate all the talks and collect all the COIs and everything else from using the cadmium products.
So ACG was actually the originator of the harvester that many of you use and know today. They asked, hey, we need a way to manage our speakers and figure this management thing out because it's an absolute disaster, and they have so many speakers as all of these organizations do. And that was the catalyst for the development of the harvester. So as was mentioned in the general session today, by all means, make your voice loud and clear to the executive team, because that's the way the products are developed. Something Meredith brought up in our practice session, which was funny to me, is she said, oh, I don't know about you guys, but most of our submissions come in on the last day, in the last hour. And if you look at the data, how many people in here have that same experience? If you'll raise your hand, or if you're virtual, yep. It's not just you, Meredith. Everybody has that same trend going on with their organization.
Yeah, so it was impossible to predict 1,000 extra abstracts because we were trending a little bit up. We were okay, we were happy with the little bit up, but it was nothing like that last 2 hours of submissions that resulted in 1,000 extra, and it's hard to plan for that kind of stuff. So
it is.
Having the data that we've had in cadmium was a way to kind of forecast that we were gonna be up, and we kept telling our leadership, and they kept saying, oh, it's early, those aren't, we don't trust the numbers till they really come in, and we were right.
Yeah, great job. And Lauren? Is it very similar?
Well, cadmium is just, are you specifically asking about, do we have last minute submissions?
No, I know you have last minute submissions.
Okay. But just how the cadmium software is so fundamental to our meeting at this point. And we first were looking at submission program-wise, the solution for our abstract, since that's a very complicated form. But once we had adopted cadmium, we have all of these other submission programs. We have a medical image competition each year. We have a case-based submission program. We now have patient stories that are collected. We collect the team rosters. We have a Jeopardy-style competition for fellows at our meeting, and so that's how we collect their team names and the team members. So it just goes to show how flexible that scorecard is and all of the different kinds of information it can be used to collect. And the harvester is then, how we handle all of that information, migrations in from the different scorecards. We're now also using a scorecard at the very beginning of the building of our program to collect session ideas from our general constituency. And that forms the kernel of the program that then just gets built on throughout the year as we approach the meeting.
Yeah, and you said, Lauren, that your staff has really adopted the program because of kind of that continual, all those different use cases that you listed. So sounds like a lot of shared knowledge at ACR of just everybody getting familiar with.
That's right, and it started in the education department, but now we have at least two, I guess 3 actually, other departments who are using it for their events now as well.
Wonderful. And Melissa, how have you integrated it?
Yeah, we've been with Cadmium for a long time as well, not as long as the CDs, but we had, it came to us actually when we started with on-site presentation delivery through our AV vendor back in 2015. And once we got in there, we quickly realized that the harvester was a great way to harvest all of our event information. And since then, we've kind of just grown with it to add on a number of different modules, but really it's the hub of our entire event management ecosystem, because we now have several integrations that we use the Cadmium data as the main source of information. So we have our, we start with our association management system with a single sign-on for all of our speakers. They come in and they have all of their tasks there. We've also integrated with our COI disclosure system that is our own homegrown system, but again, single sign-on, it works there as well. And then we use it, we also integrate it to our new on-site file delivery, presentation file delivery system when we're at the actual on-site program, as well as our virtual platform and our mobile app. It's really the main source of data for literally everything, even our abstract, which we don't collect through Cadmium, but we're able to have everything feed into each other. We also use Cadmium at the very beginning of our process as well. Our program planning is done with our session applications, course applications, as well as plenary general session ideas, review, rating of the applications, all happens there. And then we use it in a number of different ways as well. Collection of patient stories. We use it again for clinical. We have a new program that we've started, the Clinical Trials of Progress, where people can also submit. So there's a number of different application calls that we use the scorecard for. So really, Cadmium serves as the basis of our entire event technology ecosystem.
Awesome. And Kaylee?
So same thing, Cadmium's really the foundation for our scientific program. We start with the session suggestions, and then we have abstracts submitted there. We use the education harvester, we use the poster harvester, and e-poster gallery. That's something we started doing during COVID, allowing our abstract presenters to upload a PDF of their poster, record 5 minutes of audio over it. If they're not able to come to our meeting, maybe they're international or they're in training and can't take the time off, it gives them the opportunity to get their science out there. And I think that has been a really big change for our program. We did, during COVID, we had the responsibility to get the information out to our doctors, so it just made it so much easier not requiring posters to come in person. We also use the survey magnet for CME collection, and then we do have the website for itinerary planning for our attendees.
So leads me to a great next question, Kaylee, is how has this really impacted your attendee and membership base? And it sounds like, especially for a group like yours, it's international. being able to incorporate some different solutions to make those folks feel as though they're still part of the experience and your event. And you mentioned in terms of live streaming, that's been particularly useful for you and for IDSA. And can you elaborate on what's happened kind of since the pandemic?
So we live stream every single session. So that's around 180 to 200 sessions. So we have 20 to 25 channels running at once in each time slot. It's a lot, it really is, but it is such an advantage to our attendees. Whether they do come in person or they don't, they can watch the content after ID Week has ended. So we also started doing that during COVID out of necessity, but we have continued to live stream all of our sessions. It's allowed us to charge the same amount for our virtual registration as we do for our in-person, because you can claim the same amount of credit. You can watch every single session if you want to and claim the credit for every single one. And that's added a lot of value to our registration for virtual attendees.
And Sean, you mentioned in your experience with managing the awards, you've really I would love for you to share your personal goal versus what was the outcome of the experience.
My personal goal was to grow the program by 2%. And in a surprise to everyone, it was actually grown by 40% in 1 year. So I really set the standard high for personal goals. The company was quite pleased with that as well. So
how has that incorporation of awards at CES, what does that look like in terms of how it's presented, the impact in terms of the event?
So we post all of the honorees. So the honoree is someone that entered a product into the award program, became selected among the judges, and became an honoree, and that is kind of like the winner of the program. There's multiple across all the categories, and those are posted online. You get a badge, and you can kind of boast about it and promote it on social media, marketing, and everything like that. But there's also an on-site component called the Innovation Awards Showcase, where if you're an honoree and also attending CES, you can bring your product there, and you'll get so much media attention and just buzz about your product there. So that is a really cool benefit of becoming an honoree, and that's the on-site portion. Maybe someday we'll have an award ceremony, or we'll live stream something, because that sounds like something that is really awesome and what people kind of want to see. So hoping to grow there.
Awesome. And Lauren, in terms of your use of the website and getting people excited about the program, can you expand upon kind of how you release the schedule and get that available to your attendees far in advance of the event?
Yeah, so our meeting is usually in November, and with the direct connection between the Harvester and the Eventscribe website, we're able to launch that as a publicly available online program the 1st of May. So before we even launch our registration, people are able to go in and look at the actual sessions and the speakers that we're going to be featuring, and that's how people are able to make their decisions. You know, are they going to attend this year? Who's speaking? What do I want to see?
Get that content available to your attendees, get them interested and excited. I think some people believe that you have to release everything at the same time to your attendees, but in fact, the nice thing about it is you can pick and choose what you want to publish to the website so that people have the opportunity to kind of pique their interest, and then as you confirm speakers, get more information out there on the website that you want to make available. And Melissa, in terms of managing your speakers, your thousands of speakers, how have you seen the Harvester help you in navigating that task for you and your staff?
Absolutely. I feel that now that they have, first of all, it's very easy to use. Second of all, the integration of the single sign-on, they've gone very used to it. They understand that the Harvester login is where they can get all of their information. In fact, if we ever send them anything not through the Harvester, they're very confused about where to go. So it's really the dashboard of everything that they need to do, all of their, their copyright, the release forms, the COI, the presentation upload, that everything's right there. We talked about this too, about letting it be a place to give them information that they need, presentation guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. It's really just their speaker kind of central for everything that they need, and it's really helped them be able to complete everything that they need in a timely fashion for us. It's really helped both sides.
And then Meredith, what about you? How has it impacted your attendees, your members, in terms of using the system?
Yeah, we've used Cadmium for all of our events for so many years that our attendees, again, don't know what to do without Cadmium. So that wouldn't be a choice. And the fortunate thing is that all the data is there, so they can go back and they can review the content and things like that. But of course, with the pandemic and with going into a virtual and then a hybrid environment, we have started live streaming. We only do one channel at a time, and that's very intentional, that we only want to give them one choice. We almost want to devalue the virtual component so that there's an incentive to still come in person. We did not charge differentials between virtual and in person. And Cadmium was able to help us, provide a product that was valuable, and then we used all of our content collection to then do on-demand sessions following the program, and we again give a set time frame. We do that on purpose so that it drives the content and drives everyone to the site. And so we make a lot of strategic decisions, but Cadmium has the flexibility to allow us to make all of those strategic decisions and what works best for our meetings, our organization. We've gone back to our regional courses are only in person, but we still use the website, we still use the app, and we've always done that. That didn't change. But it also drives then, if you want a virtual option, you can go to my annual meeting and you can do virtual there. So we have lots of options for our attendees, but we make very strategic, well thought out decisions, and Cadmium's able to support all of those.
That's a great point of just every meeting looks, as we know, a little different, and making decisions based on what your members and your attendees and constituents are really asking for, and how do you get them there, and how do you increase that revenue? So with that, how do you use data to influence your decision making? Oftentimes as meeting planners, we run from one meeting to the next kind of as quickly as possible. You're already planning next year or 3 years from out when you're currently in your current meeting cycle. So how do you kind of take a step back and use the data that's available to you across all of your platforms to make informed decisions of moving forward? And I'll start with you, Melissa.
Yeah, the data and analytics is the number one piece of information that we use when planning for the following year. In addition to evaluation feedback, the attendance data is really the driver for how we build the program as we look at it and see. We're able to see, the behaviors and how they've changed over the years, because they have. In fact, gone are the days where everyone runs to the general session and sits there for the most of the day. Now we're seeing attendees wanting to be in panels, case-based discussions, more hands-on, more interactive, more personalized. And so with the data, we're able to make a more personalized experience for them. So you can say, you have 30 concurrent sessions. Where does somebody who's a resident interested in prostate cancer, where do they go? Because we've heard from our residents, they go to our meeting, they don't know what to do. The first year, they literally are just kind of stunned by it all and don't know where to go. So we have used that information to be able to guide them, so we can see where someone else like them or someone just above them in their career is going, and we're able to then curate these tracks for them. So by tagging things by topic category, and not just that, by making sure that we're not having too much competing content as well. So it's really about making it easier for personalizing it and making it easier for our attendee to consume the program.
What about you, Lauren?
So we use RFID on site, which makes it very easy, to track the attendance of the session, what was popular. Also, how long people tend to stay in a room. We've had a lot of discussions around how long do people want a session to be? You know, if they're only going in for so long, do we need to start shortening our sessions, that kind of thing. And that's all information that we're able to pass along to our planning committee for when they're making decisions. And Cadmium's also been very helpful in that it serves as a record of what we've had in past years. So, you know, during our planning meeting, we have people looking up the online program from last year to say, oh no, we just had something like this.
And what about you, Sean?
I mean, like everyone else, we use it a lot to anticipate needs for the following year. What categories did well, we can see where we need to improve in certain categories if we need to change something up. Especially last year with a 40% increase, we have judges for every entry. We did not have enough judges for how many entries we had, so that is something that we need to consider this year. Like, how are we going to perform? Do we need more judges? Do we need to cap the amount of entries that they review? We also, being on the operations team, we are responsible for building the show basically from the ground up. So that comes with a lot of floor plans and layouts and how many applicants we're going to have, how many people are going to show up to the showcase. Do we need to expand by 100 to 200 products? So it goes, a lot of planning goes into it. It's a lot of anticipating future needs based on this data.
Did you run into a similar situation with all your abstracts of having to recruit more reviewers? Or?
We had made some decisions based on the little bits of growth that I was seeing. So even the management didn't want to take it seriously. I was taking it seriously. So I had hundreds of reviewers this time, and I had extra review groups. It still wasn't quite enough. I still had some people that were reviewing over 100 abstracts each. But that was the exception and not the rule. So I feel like an okay job planning, but it's just going to influence, of course, next year and how many we ask to review.
And Kaylee, what about you? How do you use data to make those decisions?
So we definitely use attendee data on what topics are hot that year, what's trending. We also use on-demand data to see what are people going back and watching, because that tends to be things that are practice changing. People are using it as they're treating patients. So we look at that a lot to see we need to have more of this next year, or nobody went to this session, maybe that should just be a webinar and not an in-person session. So we look at things like that. It's also really nice that in Cadmium you can have tasks for your speakers to answer any question you want. So something we like to look at is, how are we doing on women versus men speakers, or where are we with race and ethnicity? And our program committee really likes to see that information. And they also feel really proud when they see we're doing better every single year. That motivates them.
Awesome. So Meredith, I'm going to go to you as the OG. Can you share some best practices, success stories, just things that have happened throughout your years in the association world or with Cadmium to our audience and virtual audience? What advice do you have or just interesting situations?
Yeah, so we use Cadmium so much that we use it to make iterative improvements every single year in our process. So every year when there's a pain point, we try to fix that pain point. Well, then that becomes easier, and then the next year there's something else is the rub. And it's always less and less, but there's still always something that can be done to improve. So for example, this year we made a change that we identified last year. My journal team goes through and cleans our author blocks from our abstracts. And so you could have UCLA listed 16 different ways. You know, you've got some parts of it abbreviated, you've got some that say medical school, some that say the department, and everything else. So we used the data from last year that had been cleaned, and we used that as a drop-down box this year. And it was an easy integration, it was an easy step, but it made such a difference in the editing process. So it was one way to take that technology and make it better for the staff doing the job. And then we were able to, this year, because that was so easy and they didn't have to do as much work there, then we were able to provide about 2 weeks in advance. So before we'd actually judged all of the abstracts and made our decisions on which ones would move forward in which ways at the meeting, because we didn't have to do as much cleaning, we were able to then go back and start looking at the editing process. And we were able to build a tool in Cadmium using the worksheets where our journal team could start looking at it before it had ever been migrated over to the poster harvester and the main harvester, our educational harvesters where our oral sessions end up. So we were able to give them access long before any of the migration happened, and give them extra weeks of time, which, as you guys know, having even an extra hour or two is important, but weeks was an incredible leap that we could give them.
That's such a great point, is the work is never done. Every year there's always improvements to be made. However refined your process becomes, there's always something new, and you discover tools that exist in Cadmium. As you know, working with your project managers, it's hard to get through everything. There's so many different options, but presenting those, hey, is there a better process that we could implement to make things easier? And many of you probably have never encountered our editing tools that you can use to just quickly make some sweeping changes. ACG is definitely a power user of that. But yeah, it is interesting to see how even your evolution with many, many years, how you can always make improvements. So thank you for sharing. Kaylee?
So we have abstract awards I think there are 9 different award types. And we used to do mail merges to send out those award letters. And it was very complicated. There's a different amount for each award. You want to list the abstract on there that is given the award. And then you have to get back to us to accept the award. How do we get you this money, et cetera, et cetera. So since we had been communicating with our presenters in Cadmium, we were not excited to send them another email coming from a different email address. So using custom fields, we plugged in all the different questions we needed them to answer, the different amounts they would get, and we were able to build a task using custom fields for the award process. And that's something that I love about Cadmium. I can come up with some crazy idea that I want to do, and I'll go to my project manager and say, do you have anything that might work for this? And it may not be what the feature was built for. It most of the time isn't. But it will work for what I need, and everything can be automated. We can pull reports with that information in it. It's a lot less manual. And then we also use build codes. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a build code 2 and a build code 3. And I was scared to use them my first couple years, but now they can change how you do things. You can assign specific people, specific presentations to things using those build codes, and also pull worksheets and reports based on those build codes.
Thanks for mentioning that, because that's a great way to, especially with groups as large as these folks represent, being able to manipulate your attendees' experience, use build codes to make sure they're getting to the information that is of most interest to them. That's a great tip for everyone. And Lauren, what about you?
I think building on what Kaylee was saying, over the years we've learned that how you set up and tag your data within the system can make such a difference. I have learned to love roles. We now probably use like 20 different roles in our harvester, and it comes down to, even if 2 people are speakers, if there's something about the one person that they're going to have to complete an additional task, or you're going to have to send them a different communication, then those people should probably have 2 different roles. And roles are how you can filter your communications, you can filter your worksheets, they're how you assign your tasks. So making sure that you've customized those can make a huge difference. We also use the build code 2 to assign specific tasks to people who are receiving specific benefits within the system. And we use custom fields in the same way, and it is really amazing the degree to which you can customize an individual person's information and what they will see within a task based on what you set up in the custom field for that individual. And we do a lot of that with our benefits so that people see, you know, the amount of their honorarium when they go and look at a task. They see their complimentary registration or their hotel benefits, that kind of thing.
And that is important to people. So making sure it is upfront and present and they have what they need to, any sort of promo codes or discount codes that you want to include in your harvester task, that they can take that and go and register, or they know what they're receiving as part of participating. That's a great point. Melissa.
Yeah, I completely echo the build code role. Just another way to slice and dice a large amount of data and I love that the way that they're both described using it, because that's kind of how we feel like we're, you know, hacking the system, but not really. It's there, you know, and it's just a really great way to be able to just segment the data. One thing I didn't think of, but it came to me when you were talking about the merging of the information for your awards, is we actually have a separate harvester that we use beyond the program. We use it logistically, so we use it for all of our VIPs, so our award winners, or our special lecturers, or our board. This is a way for us to collect their hotel information, and they're separate than the speaker faculty management. Same thing, being able to personalize what they see is what we need from them, filling out a W-9 form, all of that. So that's a completely different process, but that has helped both sides, again, exponentially, again, a way for us to receive the data in a way that's usable, and a way for the VIPs to be able to get all of their information to us in one-stop shop as well. So that's not what I originally was going to say with my answer, but I think it's important to think about how you can rethink of the data collection. It's not just your event program. It's literally anything you need to collect and how it can work best for you. But what I was originally going to talk about was the use of the speaker conflict tool on the power tool section. I actually use that beyond the speakers. I actually use it too for topic conflict. So that has helped immensely. We even print out that whole thing. Whenever we get everything in there, we print out pages and pages where we, as a team, sit down and we say, okay, look, he's at this speaker at the same time when this female speaker is giving the same talk, and we can't do that. You know, so it's just a way to really dig deep into it, because there's so much going on at the same time, and use it to look at the conflicts on the program.
That is a great point. There are so many data points to consider, especially when you're building a super comprehensive program, lots of different stakeholders and folks to consider. Great point. And Sean?
I feel like I just learned so much more about how I can use Cadmium, so I will be going back and doing that for sure. But I think you guys all hit the nail on the head there, but something that we typically use a lot, there's a feedback suggestion, and it comes to you in the form of an email, and I keep all of those, and because we want to make our applicants and our entrants happy, right? So whatever feedback they have, whether it's good, bad, ugly, and it's all there, we really take that to heart, and we're going to tailor our application for the following year a little differently based on what they're looking for, what might be missing, what's redundant, and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, I too have learned so much even today. Would love to open it up to questions from our live audience as well as our virtual audience. Please, if you haven't already, open your Spark app and submit your questions through the Q&A. Vicki will be reading those out. So Vicki, do we have any questions?
Oh, we have so many questions.
Oh, good.
I'm gonna stay off to the side so folks can hear me, but look at you.
Okay.
For Lauren, folks are dying to know what AMS you use. Is that something you can share?
Oh, sure. We use Salesforce, and we do have that integrated with Cadmium. We use the single sign-on. We also use that, I don't know if people are familiar with the member lookup tool within Scorecard. That is integrated with the AMS, so people can go in, look up an author, add their information to the system. They don't have to go type it in every time. And yeah, integrations have been a really powerful tool also just to help us keep track of what our members are doing for us. You know, because we are able to write back into the AMS saying, and they gave this talk at this meeting.
For sure. I heard, if there was a theme I heard throughout all of this, it was that you are exceptionally smart users of data, all 5 of you, and that you have for your organizations really managed to use it for better user experiences and attendee experiences, but also to make smart decisions for your organizations and prove to your leadership where they needed to make some choices. So kudos, team.
And we actually have a session hosted by our partner SB Expos on integrating with your AMS and Cadmium. So they'll touch on exactly what Lauren was saying.
Great call out. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah.
All right, so for those who live stream their sessions, is it true live streaming during the conference, or is there like a virtual component after? Can you speak to how you handle that a little bit?
We actually do both. So we, like I said, we have one channel that broadcasts throughout our entire meeting. It's a 6-day meeting, and it's actually broken down into many components. But we do a live stream that is one session room, so the main session room has a camera, and we live stream that, but then we capture all the other rooms, and that becomes our on-demand content. So not only does the main room get saved for on-demand, but all the other rooms. And again, I think I heard it from one of the other panelists that we basically get to offer CME for everything. So back pre-pandemic, you had to pick your session, and we could only, like if we had 3 or 4 things going on at once, we could count one time frame, because you could only manage to be in one room at a time. Now we can count all the time frame, all the rooms as a separate entity, because you can go back and get that content. So we're able to just, it plus is the content.
And what about you, Kaylee?
It is a true live stream in all session rooms. One thing to note is we only have cameras in our ballroom, so in our general session room. All other live streamed rooms are slides with audio, so that's what virtual attendees are going to see. Otherwise, if they're watching the ballroom sessions, we have multiple camera views, and it will switch just kind of like TV. But for all the other sessions, it's just not really worth having a camera and a cameraman and all of that.
Do you end up posting that content to Ethos CE for consumption?
We're talking about it.
Okay.
It's a little murky because we do leave the content up for on-demand viewing for 6 months after the conference ends. And that's included with your initial registration. So we're just trying to figure out the logistics of what do we charge after that to continue watching the content after.
Gotcha. Cool. Other questions?
Yeah, there are so many other questions.
Okay.
So I think, Sean, you were talking about charging a fee for scorecard submissions. I think folks are curious, like, how'd you go about implementing that? And then tactically, like, where are you charging for that? And what's the acceptance rate for your submissions?
Good questions. Good questions. So I've only been doing at the company for 3 years, but as far as I'm aware, they've been charging the whole time. For this program in particular, and it's been going on for, I'm going to say 10, 15 years. Don't quote me on that. And what was the second part or third part?
Yeah. So where do you actually charge for those?
So after the application is fully kind of submitted, or not, you don't even actually have to fully submit it. You just have to have everything in the required field and then hit submit, and then it'll take you at the end to a payment field. But the nice part about that is if you want to secure that early bird fee, you go in before that deadline, you pay that fee, and then you can actually go back into the application and submit it, change it until the actual due date. We have a lot of people, you'll see like a lot of example, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in all of the required fields, and then once it's actually due, they'll go in and update it.
So they make it required before you can submit and be up for review, you have to submit payment.
Correct.
You have to submit payment. And then you were saying with the submission types, you have it to where folks can, depending on the dates they start the submission, they can get that early bird fee.
Correct. You can get an early bird fee, and you also, depending on what required field you pick, if you say you're an exhibitor as well as a member for CTA, it'll automatically deduct that at checkout so that you will get the discounted rate.
Great. And then do you know what the acceptance rate for your submissions is?
No. We don't have, it depends on basically how many submissions we get each year, and it's really hard to tell. I mean, one year we had a 40% increase in one year that we were not anticipating, so we had to kind of move some things around and figure out, because we can't, as much as we would love to have everyone become an honoree, we just can't do that. It doesn't make it as exclusive if everybody is. But.
And what was your total submissions this year?
Over 3,100.
3,100, and then the highest rate is 800, 799 for
the highest rate.
Yeah.
$999.
$999. Oh,
Yeah. So.
that's a good return on investment.
So we're all talking about, well, I guess, varying sizes of programs, but can you talk a little bit about how many staff are dedicated to each of your conferences?
Staffing.
Staff.
Kaylee?
So we are in the process of hiring some new staff. So at present, our department for meetings is about 10 people. That includes exhibitors, registration, and content management. And then, of course, our marketing team helps us a lot. Our education team helps us a lot. But our core team is about 10 people.
Melissa, what about you?
Yeah, our conventions and meetings team is about 12 people. It's not everyone focuses on the annual meeting all year round. We have people who focus just on the standalone meetings, and then have annual meeting responsibilities when it comes to being on site or picking up a program closer to it. But as far as, and we run it as a separate, we have a programs team and we have a logistics team for annual meetings. So about, at any given time, there's probably 7 people devoted specifically to it. But the entire organization takes part in our annual meeting program and planning. That's just the core of our scientific program.
And Lauren?
So the education department is structured, it's divided into programs and products, and programs being all of our educational meetings. We've just actually expanded a little, so there's a senior director over all of the educational meetings, with 3 people devoted to the programming of the annual meeting. My team that covers submissions and faculty management for Convergence, and also for smaller professional meetings throughout the year, although the huge majority of our time is spent on Convergence. And then there is a team of 2 people who handle the program development and working with the planning committees for smaller professional meetings. And there are about 2 of those a year as of now. We've got one in the winter, and then a state-of-the-art symposium in around April.
Okay. And Meredith is similar in size? Or?
We are much smaller. My grants team is 3 people, and there's a separate login to Cadmium that they deal with the grants. So that's one set of our Cadmium products. And then for the educational stuff, we basically have like 3 super users, and then we have somebody who does our exhibits. And that's for all the meetings all year long. So it's really a core team of about 4 that are doing all of our events.
Wow.
And of course they provide products, they provide data, they provide anything that we need out of Cadmium, but it's really a couple of small super users. So they're very intimately involved, and they help us troubleshoot everything. They come up with the solutions when I say, I need something to fix this, I need something to fix that. They can really jump in and get us what we need.
I can't wait to hear your answer. What does CES require?
Actually, I feel like I need to clarify my answer now. The people I listed are really people who do programming, whereas we've got like a logistics team who works with us, and marketing and exhibits and sponsorships. Right. So we have a lot of support in addition to the positions that I named.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking about the Innovation Award program that uses Cadmium solely, you are looking at her. It is me fully in Cadmium. I do have one other colleague who kind of helps with the program overview and what kind of outlines and requirements we need to change, but I am the boss lady in Cadmium for the award program.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah, it seems that they're, in talking with all of our customers, I'm sure you can relate to one of these people. You are the only person. You have a group of 2 or 3 of you, and then you might have a staff of 10 plus. It never is enough. Whatever position you're in, you're always, of course, wanting some extra help. But yeah, thanks, guys.
That is so true. So we've got a couple of questions that are getting to, I think also a staffing capacity question. Across the 5 of you, there are just a lot of abstracts. So we're talking about like really high volume. Can you talk about how you manage that process, like how you're getting reviewers, and then how the technology is helping you do that?
Who wants to start? I can jump in on that. So we have almost 400 reviewers all told. And it starts with a committee structure where we have several high-placed committee members who are in charge of recruiting the first tier of reviewers. We've got about 50 abstract categories, mostly disease-based. And for each of those categories, there are supposed to be 2 co-chair reviewers. And then each of those co-chairs is responsible for recruiting 2 additional reviewers. And so the category is then reviewed by a team of 6 people, the 2 co-chairs plus the 4 reviewers, except for our larger categories, because if you've got like 300 abstracts in a category, that's not something that somebody wants to review. And so for those, we might have 3 review teams with the same structure. And then after abstracts are initially scored, then say the 6 co-chairs from across the 3 different review teams within that category get together on a call and discuss what they've reviewed. As far as technology, we're honestly still doing that on a SharePoint spreadsheet. We have not figured out a better way. Because we're reaching out to people, they're suggesting someone, we are checking to make sure they're eligible in these specific ways, and then we're having to tell them, yes, you can invite them, and they get back to us and say they agreed, and it's a lot of work that a staff member spends a couple of months doing, mostly just managing that process. As far as where Cadmium's really a blessing is in assigning the reviews. It has a great review assignment tool where you can name a specific category for each reviewer and then also assign that category to the abstracts. And then you can just run the review assignment tool and it matches everyone with the correct category. So that makes it a lot easier than some other sites I've seen where you have to do a lot more manual work to get your abstracts assigned.
Yes, that was, we actually, I don't know if he's in the audience, but one of our, oh, there he is, customers here, ABCT, Stephen Crane, that was one of the reasons we developed that tool was they have tons of reviewers with lots of different categories. That are areas of expertise and needed a way to quickly assign submissions to review. So with as much content as these ladies manage, I can imagine that would be very helpful. So thanks for sharing, Lauren. Any tips on how you're getting interest from your members on submitting? Meredith or Kaylee, Melissa, Sean, how you get people excited about submitting, or what draws them to submit? Thoughts there on, yeah, Melissa.
So a couple of points on that. We, historically, our reviewers would have come from our subspecialty societies that are, obviously closer to the content and they're the subject matter experts. But we have recently, in the last year, and we just launched it this week actually, an open call for abstract reviewers. So it's an application process that they go through. They have to be a member, they have to, and then they talk about their credentials, list what, how they feel, and it's been great because it's a pipeline for them to then become a moderator on site, which is what a lot of them really want to do. Is we continue it through there, right? You're an abstract reviewer, we have a team leader, above that we have a clinical content lead on each of it, but it's all ultimately to be able to participate in the program. So that's kind of how we're And we have, just this week we launched it, and we already have over 150 people who have, that's just new people to the process. We love it because it diversifies the subject matter experts as well. So, and it's not just the same people year over year. So that's one way that we get interest. The other way is just by introducing new topic categories and then marketing them. You know, AI obviously is a big one. Global health, humanitarianism, things that are just a little bit more, you know, that are new and just, you know, getting more people involved in the program.
I usually take the speaker report from the meeting the prior year and recruit them to review for us. We like to have around 600 reviewers. So it does take some work. We used to only advertise internally, and we have started advertising to the public on social media, just trying to get as many people to volunteer as possible. And then, like you said, we have to review them, make sure they're qualified, and so that cuts down the number a little bit, but opening up to everybody is the easiest way to get submissions.
Yeah, and we take it, you know, these ladies have been talking about the reviewers, but in order to kind of get the buzz going about submissions and things like that, once part of the acceptance process, once you have been invited to give a poster or an oral presentation, we give a badge that you can post on social media that says, I'm presenting at ACG. And so it's a neat kind of thing. And actually, that grew this year too. Our exhibitors asked for that. Like, I'm exhibiting at ACG. So we've designed a second badge for exhibitors.
Oh, that's a great idea. Branding.
Yeah.
Vicki, I think we have time for one more question.
I think we do. We have more than one, but we'll get some more answered in the app.
Okay.
So right now, do any of your AV companies pull presentations from the harvester? Like, how are you handling that today?
So, Melissa, you're pulling AV companies from the pulling presentations from the harvester.
Yes.
Can you talk about your process there?
We have an integration with our, are we talking about on-site delivery of presentations?
Yes.
Yeah, so our AV company has their own presentation management software that Cadmium integrates with rather well. So when they go into their task, you say presentation upload, you click it, and you're immediately taken, pass through to the AV vendor's presentation upload. That's the same as our speaker ready.
Right. So in the harvester, if you haven't used it, there's a downloader tool that you can give access to your AV provider where they log in and they can download all the presentations. It'll organize them into a zip file by day, time, room, however the AV provider needs it to then figure out the speaker ready process. With that being said, as you know, Cadmium is upgrading our speaker ready room software, so would love, Kaylee modeled for us earlier today in speaker ready room. It's in 203, I believe, but I'm happy to escort anyone there and learn more about how that process works and the upgrades that we've implemented. We're also having a few sessions on speaker ready room. Would love for you all to participate. Any other questions from the?
I think we're just about out of time right now, but can everyone please join me in just a warm round of applause and thank you. This was an excellent panel. All right, so don't forget to submit the evaluation. It's at the bottom of the session in the app, and there's also a Q&A there if you have any additional questions that you want to add, and we can try to get them answered. Thank you again so much. Wonderful job, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yay, good job, guys.